Hello. I am finally at 5:30 today after waking up at 7:30 today and then rising 5:30 p.m. I'm on this live getting an alone moment now that my baby boy is taking a rest. I have a almost 16-month-old. He's 15 and a half months, and we had a beautiful rising. My husband and I got up and out and took him to the park, and we walked and we got sun and we played and we connected with people. And he fell asleep a little bit in the car on the way home and woke up once we got here, and it was a really short trip. So I'm just now getting a moment to indulge in some of what it is that I wanted to talk about. And I felt called to utilize this time. I'm recognizing the preciousness in my alone moments and how do I want to utilize my energy? How do I want to utilize my gifts? Because for those of you who are actively mothering, I'm sure that you recognize, especially to young children, I'm sure that you recognize just the preciousness of alone time, the preciousness of time to nourish yourself, to move your body, to be in your own pleasure practices, however they look, whether that's sitting and basking in sun or massaging yourself or doing breath work or moving or exercising or sipping a cup of tea or writing, creating your art, doing your work, any of the things. So for me, I spent a little bit of time today in conversation and then also in reflection and a little bit of revised writing around my expression and my work and my art and what I believe in and what I'm here for. And a huge part of what I'm here for, and probably the most significant out of anything, is first of all the embodiment that I offer myself by being in this expression, and then how that embodiment and expression and values and how I'm actually inhabiting them has called into my life all of the pleasures and the blessings that I currently am experiencing and receiving, that then got alchemized into the creation of my son, our son, and mothering him to me feels like my main purpose, my greatest art. And as I recognize that while it is important to put as much of my my gifts into nourishing myself, caring for myself, and putting myself in a position of abundant and overflowing wellness to be in my mothering season, especially. And I think once you become a mother, your mothering season never goes away, but especially while my son is young, especially like for the first 7 years of his life, but probably even longer than that. My priority is going to be around being the best mother that I can for him. And that inherently means that if I recognize the importance and the value of mothering and how that supports us to show up a specific way as women, as leaders, as influencers, as inspirers, as healers, as teachers, as guides, as community shapers, as village shapers. I really do believe in centering women and especially centering mothers when it comes to the world that our children deserve and that we all deserve and that is wanting to emerge through us, right? Some of the circus that we're seeing in the media cannot be the main goal of the universe and evolution, and it is certainly playing at all these different ways of expressing itself. And I do believe that if we are going to thrive, the ones that are going to thrive are going to need to center mothers and center women and center children and really nourish mothers and nourish women who are mothering and nourish the babes that are being mothered by those mothers, because that is going to be generative of the kind of world that we all deserve, that is truly a world where we all can thrive, where we are provided with the nourishment and the empowerment and the love, the radical acceptance, the belief, the celebration, all the things that, the amplification, all the things that we really deserve and require as humans to truly thrive, not just survive, but to thrive and to expand beyond survival, which is an expression, or it's not even really, it's very hard to be expressed when you are in survival mode. You are most likely repressed, suppressed, oppressed, struggling in some way if you are in survival mode, because we've been given all of the gifts of this beautiful parent planet, this beautiful home, to thrive. And thriving does not look like survival mode. But so many are living in that because our organisms, our bodies, biologically, physiologically, are not that different than our primal ancient ancestors, further back than we could even calculate, right? Track. We have not really evolved significantly, and we live in a rapidly changing, exponentially more stimulating world, right? We have so much stimulus happening all around us all the time that our bodies are not designed for. So artificial light and the sounds of machines and the constant onslaught of information or visual stimulus, auditory stimulus, emotional stimulus, all of this through watching television and social media and all of these like constant dopamine hits that we're receiving. Our bodies are like, what the fuck? They're trying to figure out what is happening and to integrate all of this stimulus, to integrate all of this information. And just most of it is so artificial and so it's so foreign to our bodies. And so it is putting a lot of people in survival states because it's being read as threat, right? All of this is just overwhelming the system. And then, then we have the media and things that are happening far outside of our homes and immediate neighborhoods and even more larger communities that are still relatively extremely small in comparison to the way that we're being pushed to consider things globally. And it's all just far too much for our organisms to receive and to integrate in functional ways. So we're seeing a lot of manifestations of the inability to manage all of this information in bodies, and a lot of shifts in the coherence of the organism that then are manifesting in physical disease and a lack of wellness. And so if we are going to shift out of that survival mode and really put our bodies into a healthy, well-rounded, healthy, health in all the aspects of being human. And I love this because my husband does such a beautiful job of talking about this. We're talking about health physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually, socially, spiritually. We don't need to, first of all, add more things to our plate. We need spaces and connections and practices and rituals and exercises and rituals is what comes to mind most for me. And those who are willing, those who do that work and embody it authentically and are capable of holding space for and providing meaningful feedback, meaningful reflection, meaningful or coherent or resonant or aligned space, just witnessing an opportunity for there to be self-reflection and self-discovery and self-death and rebirth and evolution process. Because our ancient ancestors and even many indigenous cultures and indigenous of all of all places, many different groups of people that still live really close relationships, sensual, primal relationship to the land, to each other, to all the elements, right? To the earth, to the air, to the fire, to the water, that really are connected to animal beings, to plant life, to the sustenance that this planet offers to us, and have a really rich, robust relationship with Source, whatever their God is. These kinds of practices still exist everywhere now, but I think that many of us can look back to generations beyond us, before us, and recognize that that was more profound, more robust, there was more integrity to that kind of practice in our ancient ancestors. And when we look at the systemic and the systemic genocide and dismantling and disempowering of those primal, innate human powers of being in right relationship with land, with self, in all the dimensions of self, of accepting the wholeness of what it means to be human. When we kind of pimped that out and sacrificed that for convenience, which came far after it being raped away from people, groups of people, so that other groups of people could assume positions of power and hoard resources and to take control of information or skills or whatever, and how that is just devolved over time is whether, I'm certain that it was by design, and it was very effective to disempower so many people, so many groups of people, cultures, and that trauma is very valid and still lives in the bloodlines. And if we continue to be defined by that, then how do we ever reclaim a sense of empowerment? And it is inherent in each of us. We are born into this world, into this planet, equipped with an organism that knows how to relate to this wild world and knows how to thrive in right relationship with it. And unfortunately, there is just so much that so many humans have subscribed to over the years, whether that's through pressure and coercion and like I said, genocide and rape and murder and all the kinds of pillaging that can happen, the trauma of that, and more modern apathy and convenience and laziness and all the things and just conditioning that has worked so well to get people to participate in disempowered existence, is feeding all of that dis-ease in our individual organisms, in our families, and I'm not going to say myself, in many organisms, families, neighborhoods, towns, communities, states, countries, the collective. So my work, what I do, and how I want to show up and express, and do show up and express in my daily life, but know that there is an importance in sharing that and making that visible and extending that to my greater communities. And that, because of the way that the world has changed, that could be my neighbor who lives next door, and that is something that I practice and I do seek out, the people in my immediate community. And it is also people that I can connect with from all over the globe through the convenience and the tool that is social media and technology and the internet that links us all, so that my vibration is speaking out to those who are communicating with and open to and channeling a similar vibration. that are receiving and emitting a similar vibration, so that we can link up and find the places where we can support each other's thrival. So I've been wanting to feel kind of like I said, I have a almost 16-month-old, so I have been in my own initiatory journey, one of many that I've been through, but the most recent initiatory journey of pregnancy and preparing to be a mother and birthing and the physiological alchemy that is the changes to the brain and the body and the uterus and the pelvis and all of that, the pelvic floor, all of that, hormones, the biological terrain and the somatic terrain with pregnancy and birthing, and then postpartum as well, but also the identity and the emotional and the psychological shifts that go along with that. And so I look at who I was before and who I am emerging as now, and I recognize that, like I said, nothing is going to trump the purpose of being a mother and of being as well and nourished and thriving as I can possibly be for myself and for my child, and for the synergy and wellness thrival of my home that then ripples out, because macrocosms and microcosms, everything is a fractal. So what I am in my being, I am facilitating in my romantic relationship, in my relationship with my son, in the unit of our family, in our home, in our neighborhood, in our community, in our state, in our country, in the world. And in order for us to continue to vibrate that, to emit that, to receive that, to co-create that kind of world where we are thriving, really where we are thriving, we have to rewild and remember more ancient ways. We have to reroute into our primal sensuality and presence. It is so important to reconnect with our animal bodies and the elements of nature, and to form rituals and to be in creative, erotic not in the way of, so many people think about eroticism as sex, right? Eroticism as, an erotic dancer, as a stripper, right? Like, we think of eroticism is risque and it's sexy and it's not true. Eroticism is not the pornographied, male gaze, sex industry, porn industry, clickbait kind of desire to see nude bodies, especially women's nude bodies, kind of thing that we've been taught, and that has been vilified by religions and just any groups that want to disempower the ripe, fertile, generative essence that is eroticism, that is highly feminine, innately feminine, but is just universal. It is the life force, the current that animates all life. So Eros, so the origin stories, when we think about pantheons of gods and goddesses that are not just the Christian God from the Bible and his son Jesus and the Holy Spirit, right? We think about origin stories that are that predate that and that are the origins of that story. There is the belief of there was the night goddess Nyx of night, and that her son was Eros, that she, out of her, birthed Eros. And Eros is the Greek god, but he's also known as Cupid, is the Roman god of love, right? And so we know about the little beautiful cherub baby kind of, Cupid at Valentine's Day that shoots his arrows and strikes love into the hearts of people. But eros is more than just romantic love or sexual love or attraction. It is the compulsion. And this is why it goes with that romantic and sexual, the hearts and the eyes kind of cartoonizing of it. Is eros is that driving force that compels us to relate with all other life, to relate with all other living animated beings, and to create something new, to let that relationship create something new. And for humans, that urge is primarily to procreate and to sustain our species and to sustain our bloodlines and our DNA, right? We have this compulsion and this desire and this attraction and this arousal when we see someone that we find to be beautiful or handsome, or however we might describe that, someone that we resonate with, someone that we see, someone that sees us, someone that we feel belonging with, someone that, their pheromones smell the right way to us and their body parts look a certain way to us, that all signals, yes, please, you mate with me and we make babies and we secure our bloodlines preservation. But the entire universe is a novelty conserving, novelty preserving organism that is always seeking out more opportunities to create new combinations. And the more new combinations that are created, the more robust and the more resilient and the more thriving and the more opportunity for survival and thrival that the ecosystem is going to experience. So the more new co-creations, the more new life forms, the more new genius ways of expressing itself through new experimentation, through new comings together, pun intended, then the more fertile and the more alive and the more abundant and the more rich and the more sustaining, the more nourishing, the more beautiful, the more, the better potential to thrive. And when we think about the oh my goodness, we think about the work of Charles Darwin, we think about the way that he's described adaptation and evolution. There is this kind of survival of the fittest, but it is about creating organisms that are coherent. And when there is coherence, that means that they emerge and fit into the larger ecosystem with their own eco niche, their own purpose, and that provides some service to the whole. And it is thriving and capable of being and existing because of the ecosystem that is feeding its aliveness and thrival, and it is pouring right back into that, the wellness of that ecosystem, which then it's a synergistic, it's a feedback loop, right? It's pouring into the wellness of the ecosystem, which is creating it, and it's an infinity loop of feedback and synergy that is what all of life on this planet is. And, some of it is a bit mystical, and we can't fully know all of the reasons why every kind of new creature exists, and every kind of novel creature exists, except that it exists, and it continues to find new novel forms to express itself through new genius to emerge all the time. And some of the ways that genius has emerged is through the creation of AI and through social media and through corporations and through skyscrapers and through automobiles and through, so many things that have a negative impact. They have plenty of benefits and they have plenty of drawbacks that have created situations, circumstances, conditions that are damaging to the overall thrival of the human being and many other organisms and in the ecosystem. And still, life force, eroticism, wants to emerge through all beings and wants to guide us, wants to co-create with us and help us to experience and achieve pleasure, bliss, thrival, abundance. Like, when you look outside your home, your world, especially at the most wild places that are untouched, they're thriving. They're thriving in their perfect synergy. And that is what, and they're the most beautiful, right? They're the most lush, they're the most compelling. That is what is meant for all beings. And by all beings, I mean all the trees, all the blades of grass, every bug, every human, all of it. And there is death and harm that exists within that. And for humans, sometimes that death and rebirth is psychological and in the identity and in the stories and in the cellular makeup in the body and in the consciousness. And we look at how nature continues to rebuild itself and continues to cycle through seasons of death and rebirth. We have seasons of winter where there's cold and there's decay and there's freeze and there's what feels like no life happening. And then everything comes back again here at this like high Beltane time. And there's such lushness and fertility, and we can start to see things like the flowers that are promising fruit, and also the fruit promises to ripen to the point of rot and decay and fermentation and going back to ground to compost and fertilize and make the muck that then will create more, breaking down and decay and go to the freeze and the thaw that then refuels the next spring. So, and next growing season. So we can see this happening all over the planet, all around us. We can see that these cycles exist, and they exist inside of us too. And, I was talking a bit about my journey with motherhood and how that is its own immense psychological initiation that I'm sure I will be continuing to traverse for a while. As we do with initiations. And so the work that I do is in embodying my own nature, my own relationship with Source and Eros, my own rituals and practices that anchor me, ground me, facilitate my overall wellness and thrival, fortify my wellness, focus on inhabiting those practices and the nourishment that then invites me to be the most well mother, wife, partner, community member that I can be, and to offer this work back in service to others that want to experience that for themselves as well, because how you do anything is how you do everything, and everything is a fractal of everything else. So if my main purpose and my most important work feels like being as well as I possibly can be to provide the best wellness I possibly can for my child to have all of this kind of thrival in his life, throughout his life, then I know that I want to be contributing and making at least my expression visible and have the potential to inspire, have the potential to magnetize toward me other people that will work with me so that they can experience the same for themselves, and that we can continue to come together and have our circles overlap, our families, our neighborhoods, our small communities overlap in a way that is truly rebraiding the village, and truly rebraiding the village in the way that we are each inhabiting our optimal wellness, our eco niche, and being in that feedback loop of synergy where what I need is what is breathed out, is respired, is exhaled by others in the community, that their gifts feed into mine, my gifts feed into theirs, and that it's like breathing, that how I must be and how I must express is serving to the collective and serving to the whole, and how that nourishes and enlivens in the community is pouring right back into me and creating that feedback loop. But we need that more than ever. We need that village, that true village, more than ever. And we need bodies and beings and psyches that are rooted and myceliating in ritual, in sensuality, in eroticism, in presence, in art making, in creativity, in pleasure, in gratitude, and in right relationship with the land and all organisms in the ecosystem, including each other. And so it is a very inside job, and becoming empowered, truly empowered in your own being and well in your own being, and truly well starts with physiological wellness, starts with how well nourished you are, how well you are absorbing your minerals and the nutrients from what you eat, how well you are sleeping, how well you are taking sun and metabolizing and alchemizing all of the light information and the heat information that is required by all living things on this planet. Otherwise it wouldn't exist. Right? We would just be in the fertile darkness of the void from which the universe was spawned. No, that's not where we are. We are in a world with this sun that is feeding us, and it is bringing back life. We can see it at this time of year in the spring, for those of us that are experiencing spring right now. So we need to be focusing on our physiological foundational wellness and the coherence of our physical bodies, which then creates the space for the psychological wellness, the emotional wellness, the spiritual wellness to be strong enough, to be resilient enough to go through the initiations that break us down psychologically, emotionally, logistically sometimes, and cultivating relationship with source, knowing that everything is happening for us, cultivating practices where we can be in right relationship, in true conversation and rich conversation with source consciousness that is channeled through us. And that can happen through so many different kinds of simple and more complex rituals. Rituals are acts of devotion, and they are symbolic acts that show what we're devoted to, what we are committed to, and what is important to us. And that ritual could be touching tree roots. That ritual could be performing a highly complex spell with tons of particular tools and crystals and herbs and oils, and it could be dancing, it could be sipping a cup of tea, it could be paying a bill. There are so many things that a ritual is something that we perform regularly and that we do with devotion and intention. And so doing that in a way that is truly embodied, truly present, truly sensual allows us to be inside of our present moment and really feeling with our bodies, and practicing multi-sensory presencing, where we're really looking at the colors and we're really feeling the textures on our skin, the sensations on our skin, and we're really feeling the emotions that are emerging through us, and we're really listening to what's happening around us and within us, really being in a multi-sensory present moment. It's highly erotic. It is an altered state of consciousness. It is something that dissolves us into all time, and that taps us back into the oneness, the awareness of the oneness that we all came from, that we all constantly exist inside of, and that is always myceliating through all of us. It is allowing itself to be expressed and to experiment and to explore and to evolve and to co-create and to make art through through every tree, through every blade of grass, through every human being, through every bug, through every song, through every piece of visual art, through every story that's told. So this is what I do. I create, first of all, I create potions like this cup of tea and my goddess tincture, and food nourishment. I love to cook as well, and I haven't done as much of the cooking in terms of like catering for others in like a professional capacity, but I've done some of that for events that I have hosted, and I've done it informally for friends and family in my community. But I love to cook. I consider myself a kitchen witch, and I'm learning more through my own experience of mothering and postpartum and pregnancy, how to properly nourish myself and how to properly nourish mothers. And I see my work evolving to include and incorporate more of that kind of doula work of truly helping to nourish the bodies, especially of mothers. But yes, I create potions, teas, tinctures, and beauty products like oils and salves and balms and things like that, that are free from toxins, that are made with natural materials from the earth and from creatures like bees, and that our bodies understand how to work with, and that not only replace things that are man-made toxic chemicals that are endocrine disrupting, that I can't think of the word that I wanted to say there, but that are highly damaging to and fundamentally alter the terrain of our hormones, which can be corrected. So I create products that replace that. And not only do they replace those substances, they help to purge our system and extract from our system the pileup of toxins. And so they really work with our gut and work with our liver to help our bodies expel those toxins and to restore us to a state of balance. And the reason that I focus on creating potions is because that is the first, to me, that is the first foundational level for creating optimal physical wellness. It's so challenging for so many people in our world to eat the right foods and to eat enough and to get enough sleep and to filter all of the stimulus in our environments that I talked about at the beginning of this video. There's just so much all the time, and I find that it does overwhelm many systems. It can very easily overwhelm many systems, and there are moments where I too feel overwhelmed. And that's why working with potions, working with the elemental medicine, especially the earth element and the water element that can be experienced through teas and tinctures and oils, bring a sense of groundedness into the body and create a sense of spaciousness. They increase our capacity to be able to be more present, to take in more stimulus, to be more experiencing of sensation and pleasure and even pain, discomfort, that invite us to expand and evolve through those psychological initiations and emotional initiations and identity initiations that want to evolve us into the next iteration of self that is also more true to our original blueprint, more authentic and more coherent. And so I like to start there because it is a great stepping stool. It's a great foundational piece to open up our capacity more. And then from there, it's so easy to see so many habits changing, right? The consciousness begins to shift when we are more well. When we are more well and we are absorbing our nutrients and our minerals, our brains are functioning better, our emotions are functioning better, our hormones are more balanced. All of that is functioning in the divine intelligence that our bodies are designed with, through the magic of creation, through Eros, through life force, through source, through God, however you want to describe that. Our bodies are divinely designed, intelligently designed to operate, to take care of themselves, to receive what they need from our parent planet, to thrive, right? And so I start there, and then from there, I really believe in the power and the importance of that is a stepping stone or a a gateway, a portal, right? The working with the potions and the physical wellness is the portal to the maturation and the evolution that our world really truly needs. That is how we become psychological elders and behavioral elders who are holding and retaining the secrets, and not even secrets, we don't even want them to be secrets, but the majesty and the power and the alchemy and the abundance and the meaning making and the depth and the bliss that's all possible when we are rooted in ritual and rooted in wildness and rooted in our primalness and rooted in our wholeness, our human wholeness. And we are allowing ourselves to go through those initiations, those death and rebirth cycles that evolve us and mature us beyond this like path of adolescent psychology that most of the world has. Most humans are in the modern world are not operating in their adulthood, and they hit like whether they hit it later into their biological or like chronological adulthood, or whether they achieve it even through adolescence and then they just stay that way the rest of their chronological adulthood and into elderhood. Just because someone is old in terms of years doesn't mean that they have traversed the depths of the human psyche and the human spirit and the human soul that I believe our world is asking of us. And innately, to become a mother, it is a portal to that. And not everyone is well enough and supported enough and has the tools or the guides or the community, the village, or the capacity to understand that. However, motherhood is something that's so accessible to so many people, that is such a profound initiatory experience, that it is a portal to maturing, to elderhood, and we need that. And there are so many women that are just becoming so much wiser, richer, fuller, softer, more tenacious, more wondrous, more rooted in their intuition, in their instincts, in their power, just by becoming, not that it's any small thing, but just by becoming pregnant and becoming a mother, and the experience of mothering and all the learning that comes through mothering. So I truly believe that there is an importance in celebrating and nourishing that population of beings, because it will have far-reaching effects on us all, right? And it is a very highly accessible gateway for us to feed and to nourish, because so many people are having babies all the time. And why? Because we are compelled by arrows to create new organisms, to mix and merge and create new things. And so we want to get together and have sex and experience pleasure and make babies. And it's a beautiful, pristine thing that so many of us find to be so beautiful and to celebrate. We have so many celebrations and elated energy around new babies coming into being. So I'm going to wrap this up, but there's a couple of great books that I highly recommend, and I'll also put them in the comments. Two of them, and if you've followed me for any length of time, you've probably heard them before, but two of them are Matter and Desire by Andreas Weber, and it's Matter and Desire, an Erotic Ecology by Andreas Weber. And he does such a beautiful and poetic, but also scientific job of explaining that erotic compulsion for all life to come together and to create new things and to fortify the environment and the ecosystems, the universe, to be more robust and creative and thrive. And Wild Mind by Bill Plotkin, which talks a lot about the different dimensions of the human psyche and gives you all sorts of simple rituals to help cultivate it. And I often reference those in my counseling work and recommend them to my clients and help to create rituals and lifestyle habits that feed those understandings and rewilding back into our wild mind, into the wholeness of our wild psyches, into the open, trusting, reverent, and open. I don't want to say eager, but that kind of, that openness, that pure, like welcoming energy, that sort of submission energy to Eros, to life force that is imagining itself through us all the time, because there are so many things that we can know, and there are so many things that we cannot. And that makes us very powerful. And even though it might feel a little disempowering, but the more that we cultivate a relationship with the unknown and cultivate a relationship with Eros, so much speaks through to us, and in very clear messages and signs. And sometimes they're not so clear, and they work on us all the same. And they help us if we are brave enough, and we're open enough, and we're well enough, and we have the capacity, and we're honed in on our intuition and our instincts, and we're focusing on physiological coherence that then breeds psychological, spiritual, sexual, social, emotional, all that coherence. Then we are able to better trust and flow with and surrender to the signs and the synchronicities and the wisdom that is being channeled through us, and know that it is working on us, and let it lead us, even if it's strange, even if we're uncertain about how we're following it and flowing with it. That just doing that work of being in an intimate relationship with it and flowing with it can never lead us astray, that everything is always happening in our favor, conspiring in our favor for us. And sometimes it is a massively large conversation and complex conversation that we're having with life. And so things may not happen in the way that we expect, or exactly to the details that we were hoping for, or on the timeline that we expect, but everything's happening perfectly for us. And we can work smarter, or we can work harder, right? We can work smarter by being in right relationship with and open to that current, and be an antenna receiving that current, and then emitting that current, and being in that electromagnetic exchange of the blessings that want us. And one little monumental life hack that I will offer, that is something that I work with a lot in my client relationships, is the energy of gratitude, and the physiological, the somatic, the visceral experience of gratitude. Not I wake up and I write in my journal that I'm happy to be alive, and I'm happy to have a house over, roof over my head, and I'm happy to have, enough money to pay my bills. And you might feel visceral gratitude for those things, but it's when gratitude arrives in a way that it's like, oh, I'm so glad that I had that money to pay the bills. And that's just, like not like the most exciting example in my opinion, but it can be. And it's an example related to something that I was just, saying that was kind of a little bit more superficial, right? But it's the gratitude that makes you cry, the gratitude that makes you fall to your knees. It's the gratitude that really sparks that aliveness, that Eros, that life force within you that stimulates it. And my witchery teacher, Danielle Dulski, who's another person I recommend reading all of her books, and go and follow her. She's Wolf Woman Witch on Instagram. If you don't know about her, go find her and read all the things and witness all the things and attend all of her things. She says that if we can experience gratitude in a visceral way, in a somatic way, with that charge, that shock, that spark of aliveness, that's as if a puppy or a young child were running at us full force. The elation and the spark of aliveness and the joy and the gratitude that we would feel for that. If we can look for the moments in our lives where we feel something similar to that, and we can amplify it, and we can stretch it a little longer, and we can weave that into the work that manifestation work that we're doing for the things that we hope and that we want and that we're calling into our lives. If we can weave that sensation. And it's so cool to be a mother, because now I literally have the experience of a young child running at me full force, and it is exquisite pleasure. And so being able to take those lived moments where you really truly feel that gratitude and weaving it into moments that are yet to be, the things that you're hoping for, that you're dreaming of, that you're wishing into being, and you can charge them with that energy of gratitude, and we can really truly savor the blessings that we have, like this sun that I'm feeling on my face, even though it's probably making me a little bit red on my forehead. I don't care. It's so delicious, and it's so life-giving, and it's being outside the last few days, because I am moving toward the end of my menstrual cycle, so my energy is actually waning. But being outside in the springtime, early in the day, getting sunlight early in the day, getting my feet in the grass, grounding early in the day, playing with my child, playing with my husband over the last several days, first thing in the day, these things are charging me up. So I am savoring those things, because they are reinforcing my physical wellness, which is reinforcing my capacity, expanding my capacity for all of the other work, the inner work, the shadow work, the emotional work, the nervous system work, the expansion that I'm doing as a mother to be more well. And that is giving me the capacity to show up here like this, to be in my service work that extends outside of my home, because I know that that's important too. So thank you for being with me. Thank you for witnessing. Thank you for feeling something. I encourage you to share anything in the comments that resonated for you, to share this video with others. Go subscribe to my YouTube channel, where I'm going to be posting these videos in a longer format, and so you can always come back to them and easily find them. It's a little bit more of a concise platform for things like that. And hit me up if you are looking for some pleasure potions, if you're looking for plant medicine that is non-psychedelic, even though I will work with psychedelic plant medicine as well, to increase your capacity, increase your nourishment, and support your system in thriving in all of the different dimensions of being whole as a human. And then if you want to explore beyond that too, and you want to go deeper into the more psychological, emotional, initiatory work, that is a little more abstract and a little less concrete. I love diving into those realms of the underworld and the soul and spirituality and ritual creation and spell casting and all of that too. So yes, thank you for witnessing. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for commenting. And thank you for supporting my arts, for those of you that are clients of mine or are about to become one.